You're putting the kettle on or bringing in the mail, and it occurs to you without any drama that you haven't had a real conversation in 4 days. Not a text, a conversation. And before the kettle boils, what did I do wrong? That question is the one that does the damage, not the loneliness. The loneliness you could sit with. It's the verdict underneath it. That moment happens in a lot of houses, and almost nobody says it out loud. It doesn't arrive all at once. That's the part that makes it so hard to name. It arrives as a calendar with nothing written on it, as a phone that you check, not because it buzzed, but to see whether it did, as the small, specific disappointment of a Sunday afternoon that has no shape to it. Your children are not ignoring you. They are exhausted, and they have children of their own now. Your friends have not abandoned you. One moved to be near her daughter. One is caring for a husband who is ill. One simply got quieter the way people do. Nothing dramatic happened. Nobody slammed a door. And that is exactly why it's so easy to conclude that the problem must be you. Because if nothing happened, if no one did anything wrong, then the only variable left standing is you. Let me say this plainly, and then let's sit with it for a second before we go anywhere else. Nothing is wrong with you. Something is missing around you. Those are not the same thing, and almost everyone gets them confused because the feeling arrives in the first person. It feels like a verdict about who you are. It may be information about what kind of connection is missing around you. Here's what researchers actually think is happening, and it's stranger than you need more friends. Loneliness behaves less like a character trait and more like thirst. It's a signal, deliberately an uncomfortable one, that a need isn't being met. We evolved in groups, where being cut off from the group was genuinely dangerous. So the body learned to make isolation feel urgent. But there's a second part, and this is the part almost nobody is told. John Cacioppo and Louise Hawkley at the University of Chicago spent years mapping what prolonged loneliness does to perception. What they described is that it doesn't just make you sad, it makes you watchful. Prolonged loneliness can make us more watchful for social threat. Neutral moments may begin to look like signs that we are not wanted. So the neighbor who didn't wave becomes a neighbor who chose not to wave. The daughter who took 2 days to text back becomes a daughter who'd rather not. None of that is established, but it doesn't feel like an interpretation. It feels like noticing. And then you do the reasonable thing, given what you think you just saw. You pull back a little. You stop being the one who calls first, which produces exactly the silence you were afraid of. And it is nowhere near as rare as it feels at 3 p.m. in an empty house. In 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General issued a public advisory on loneliness and isolation, the first of its kind. The finding underneath it, roughly half of American adults were reporting measurable loneliness. And that was true before the pandemic, not only because of it. Half, which means that on your street, in your building, in your congregation, this is one of the most common experiences there is. It's just the one nobody brings a casserole for. I want to put a second number next to that one. In a 2010 meta-analysis, Julianne Holt-Lunstad and colleagues at Brigham Young University pulled 148 studies on social connection. They found that stronger social relationships were associated with about 50% greater odds of survival over the study periods. That is a substantial association in a large body of health research. It does not prove that connection by itself causes the difference. It is an observed pattern across many populations. but it is a pattern that keeps showing up. It's worth separating two things that get treated as one. Being alone is a circumstance. Plenty of people are alone and perfectly well. Solitude can be one of the real pleasures of this stage of life. Being lonely is different. It's the gap between the connection you have and the connection you need, which is why you can feel it in a crowded room, at a family dinner. Sitting beside someone you've been married to for 30 years, the size of the gap is what matters, not the number of people in the room. Harvard has been following the same research project since 1938. First the original participants, and now later generations of their families, for nearly 9 decades. It is the longest study of its kind anyone has managed to keep running. And when the researchers looked at what predicted who would be healthy at 80, the strongest signal wasn't cholesterol at 50. It was how satisfied people were with their relationships at 50. Not how many, how satisfied, which is, if you think about it, unexpectedly good news. You are not behind on a head count. You do not need a wide circle. What this research points to is the quality of the relationships where you can be unguarded. Everything here is general. It is not a diagnosis, and it is not a replacement for talking to someone qualified who knows your situation. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Ellen. Ellen isn't one person. She's a composite drawn from the patterns researchers see again and again in this exact situation. Ellen is 61. She taught 3rd grade for 29 years, and when she retired, she was genuinely ready. The first spring was wonderful. She read in the mornings. She finally repainted the hallway. By the second winter, she noticed she was saving up small pieces of news with nowhere to put them. Something funny, the mail carrier said. A recipe that worked. She'd catch herself narrating her day in her head to no one. And here is the part that matters, the part that is almost universal. Ellen didn't tell anyone. Not because she was ashamed of being lonely, exactly. Because she'd decided in advance what it would say about her, that she'd let things slide, that she wasn't very good at this. And you don't go telling people a thing like that about yourself. So she went quiet about the one thing that would have gotten her help. That's the trap. Loneliness can make the very behaviors that might bring connection feel harder to try. It doesn't just hurt, it argues. And it argues in your own voice, which is what makes it so convincing. Look at what the Chicago research would suggest was happening inside Ellen's head that whole winter. Her old teaching colleague sent a Christmas card and didn't add a note. To Ellen, that was an answer. It may not have been an answer at all. It may simply have been a busy woman and a stack of cards. But Ellen's attention had been quietly recalibrated to find evidence for a conclusion she'd already reached about herself. So she didn't send one back. And the next year, neither did her colleague. That is how two people who genuinely liked each other stopped knowing each other. No falling out, no decision. Just two people each concluding, separately and wrongly, that the other one had moved on. What eventually moved for Ellen wasn't a grand plan. It was somebody naming this out loud, that the argument in her head was an argument and not a fact. Once she could see it as a claim rather than a verdict, she could do the thing the claim had been preventing. She sent the card back. That's all. It was a small act, after a long time of not knowing she was allowed to. So, what actually helps? 3 things, and all of them are smaller than you'd expect. First, choose repetition over intensity. Connection is built by showing up in the same place at the same time, more than by one big event, the library on Tuesday, the same coffee shop on Thursday morning. For many people, repetition gives familiarity a chance to grow, so the first conversation does not have to carry everything. Second, and this is the hard one, say one true sentence to one person this week. Not a confession. One sentence. The house has been very quiet lately. You are not asking to be rescued. You're just declining to pretend. That single sentence is the thing Ellen didn't say for 2 years. Third, make the low-stakes ask. Not let's get dinner sometime, which requires scheduling and effort and gives the other person a chance to be too busy. Ask for something small and specific and soon. A walk on Saturday, half an hour. A small specific ask can feel easier for both people to answer. And notice what all three of these have in common. Not one of them asks you to become more outgoing, or more interesting, or a different sort of person than you are. They're all just ways of making it slightly harder for that watchful, scanning part of your mind to keep drawing the wrong conclusion. You are not fixing yourself. There is nothing there to fix. You're only declining to trust one specific faulty instrument at the exact moment it is least qualified to give you a reading. Before you go, I want to ask you something specific because I read these. If you were going to say one true sentence to one person this week, what would the sentence be? You don't have to say who it's for, just the sentence. Put it below. Someone reading is going to recognize theirs in yours. One more thing and then I'll let you go. That question at the start, what did I do wrong? I want you to notice that it's a question about the past, and there's no answer in there for you. The only question with anything in it is much smaller, and it's about Tuesday. Whatever stage of this you're in, you're not the only one sitting in this quiet. I'll be here next week. If any of this landed, tell me below. I read them.